Welcome to the Grant Writing Simplified podcast. This is the place to learn how to make a big impact in your community through grant writing and nonprofit consulting. The world needs you to step forward as a grant writer and use your skills to lead with confidence. I'm Teresa Huff, former special ed teacher turned grant writer and nonprofit strategist. In my 20 years of freelancing, I've helped nonprofits triple their funding and exponentially increase their reach. Now I'm stepping up to mentor freelancers and nonprofit leaders like you who are ready to take your skills to the next level. It's time to get intentional about your vision so you can create lasting change in your community. Learn the skills and strategies you need to become the grant writer the world needs. Let's do this. Hey friends, welcome to Grant Writing Simplified, episode 32. I'm glad you're here today because it's kind of exciting. I am celebrating 6 months of podcasting. That just blows my mind. When I started out in October of 2020, I decided I was going to commit to going all into this for a whole year, every single week. And from there, just see what happens. And we're halfway through already. That's just crazy. And this week, I'm hitting 6,000 downloads. That's just insane. So thank you for all the support and all the listens. I love getting messages from you guys. I have met some incredible people from all over the world because of doing the podcast, and it's been downloaded in over 40 countries now. It's crazy. I'm brushing up on my geography because of this, because when I was back in school, there were some countries that don't even exist anymore, and some that didn't exist yet that we have now. So that's kind of fun. If you've listened to any of my other episodes, and if you hadn't, you should. I talk a lot about change the world. And that's kind of one of my big taglines that I throw out there a lot is go change the world. If you're listening to this, you probably have that thing in you that you want to make a difference. You want to change the world. We're here. We work with nonprofits because we care, because we want to make a difference, and we want to do something. We want to leave a legacy. We want to do something different. But what does that really mean? To change the world? We throw it around a lot. Sure, it sounds super noble, and maybe it is. If we're keeping it real, it also sounds a little intimidating and slightly impossible. So if you're suffering from little old me syndrome, then let's break it down a little bit and talk about what change the world might really mean for you. I got this idea when I was listening to Seth Godin's podcast the other day. It was number 19 on right-sizing projects. It was very interesting. He started talking about changing the world and putting it in the context of grant writing. Changing the world, yes, it is a big thing, but it also can be a little thing. It can be something as simple as smiling at someone at the store. We have masks now, so we've kind of lost a lot of our social connections that we used to have. So we have to look for other creative ways to be kind or to be friendly and just interact with people more than we used to. In the world of grant writing, sometimes changing the world just means making a phone call. It might mean sending an email to a funder. It might mean thanking a donor. It could be just something very small, but you've changed someone's world that day somewhere. It might be taking care of your sick kid at home. Some days that is what you need to do to change the world, to make a difference. Changing the world can be the sum of lots and lots of little baby steps. I mean, years. When I started the podcast, I started with 1 episode. And pod fade is a real thing where podcasters start out and then they just kind of fizzle away after 5 or 10 episodes. I was determined not to let that happen because I wanted to give this a chance to grow and to really make an impact. And I knew if I just put a few episodes out and quit, it wouldn't have the impact I was looking for. Each week, step by step, I just did that one next right thing, the one little thing. And little by little, it grew, and here it is in over 40 countries. That still just blows my mind. And even a few years ago, the programs I run and the Fast Track to Grant Writer and the coaching I do with grant writers, that would not have been possible. We didn't have Zoom or Skype a few years ago. So it's kind of incredible that all these things are coming together right now with this technology where I can help people in a very specific way. And I think that's so cool, being able to help others and give them the tools they need and the support they need so then they can go out and change their part of the world. So it's not me going out writing all the grants for all the causes. I wouldn't be able to if I wrote 24/7. I wouldn't have time. I'd go crazy and my family would think mama's off her rocker. But I can teach other people to do it, and that's why I do this. So what can you do? What is within your power right now today to change some little facet of the world for better? Sometimes these are very small. It might be a smile at someone, but it could also be doing something negative or not doing something that we should. And you've still changed the world, just maybe not for the better. And while I'm not perfect, I still have my rough days. We all do. I want there to be more good changes than bad because of me. Sometimes it's easy to lose sight of what we've done already to make a difference and to change the world. But when you start looking back and thinking about the things you have accomplished, it all starts to add up and you realize, I've come a long way. So remember to stop and celebrate the wins along the way. It's important, and it's important to keep your momentum going that way. We don't want to get discouraged by thinking, well, who am I to do that? Or why should I try that? It's going to be too hard, or I don't know how to do it. But what if you do try it? And what if it works? Or if it doesn't work, but you learn something? That's not a loss. So keep trying it. And with my grant writing students, I tell them just try it. Just start. Start small. Learn the process. It's okay if you don't win the grant. Just start with a small one and go from there. You're learning the process. You're getting to be a better writer. So keep going. We don't win all of them, and that's okay. But you can learn tools and strategies to really increase your chances. And if that's where you are, definitely go back and listen to past episodes. I've got several in the lineup that will help you. So think about that today. What are you doing to change the world, and what can you do to change the world? Think about some small wins that you've had, and think about what can you deliberately do to change the world. What small thing today can you do? It can be at home with your family. It can be at work, at the grocery store, wherever. But what can you do to change the world? We can't all change the entire world, but we can all change little parts of it. And little by little, those little parts grow into bigger parts, and they gain momentum. And pretty soon we have a bigger movement of things changing and shifting for the better. But if we give up and don't do it, then the reverse happens, and we definitely don't want those results. So which direction do you want to be a part of in the shift? Since this is kind of the 6-month birthday, so to speak, I wanted to also do a quick book roundup because I've had some incredible guests on here, and each time I usually ask them to share a resource that's been helpful for them, and a lot of times they'll mention a book. So I thought I would just run down the list through all the books. So first of all, we have Traction by Gino Wickman. This was one that Grant Hensel recommended back in episode 7 when we talked about the Google Ad Grants. He said that he reads this book about every year, and he has his whole team read it too. That caught my attention. So I asked for the book for Christmas, and I've been reading it myself. And it is very good, especially if you are involved at all at the organizational level or strategic planning level. It's really helpful to understand how to structure things, how to get your team on the same page, and how to really make progress. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm not quite finished, but I'm getting close. And it's definitely one that I want to go back and start writing and marking in. The next one, number 2, Seeing Through a Donor's Eyes, How to Make a Persuasive Case for Everything from Your Annual Drive to Your Planned Giving Program to Your Capital Campaign by Tom Ahern. I hope I'm saying that right. Sorry, Tom, if that's not. Kathy Horick recommended that in episode 15. She also mentioned Operation World. She writes grants for international nonprofits, and she uses that to look up all kinds of statistics and data on the different countries around the world, which sounds kind of cool now that I'm learning more about my geography. Then number 4 are the books by Laura Briggs, How to Become a Virtual Assistant, and The 6-Figure Freelancer. Catherine Bright mentioned those just last week on the podcast. As she was getting her freelancing career off the ground, she does a lot of work on Upwork. So Laura Briggs has kind of been a mentor to her throughout the process. Then we have Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. And I've recently been listening to his podcast at the recommendation of one of my VIP Fast Track to Grant Writer students. And it is very good. It's good at just stepping back and think about what's important and do that. Don't do everything and don't get caught up in all the distractions and busyness, but really focus and accomplish things deliberately. That's been a good reminder. Then I have one bonus book that I wanted to mention. And I say bonus because this is actually coming up in a week or two on the show of someone that I've interviewed that I just thought it would be a good book to go ahead and mention because it is so relevant to all this grant writing and nonprofit space. It's called Asking About Asking, Mastering the Art of Conversational Fundraising by Kent Stroman. Most of these are on my reading list. If I haven't read them yet, then I want to. And also, I guess I should mention my own. Over the last year, I read The Next Right Thing by Emily P. Freeman. And that was a really helpful book at that particular point in my life. Sometimes you just have a season where a certain book really resonates with you. And that was a good one. It's called The Next Right Thing, a simple, soulful practice for making life decisions. What are your favorite books? I'd love to hear from you and let me know what's been helpful to you along your journey in particular, as far as your professional growth, your personal growth, something that's really resonated with you. It's kind of funny. I used to only read fiction. Only. Unless it was for homework and something I had to read, I was a total fiction girl. But the last several years, that's kind of shifted to where I hardly ever read fiction as much. And that's so strange, but I read a lot of nonfiction and I have a huge stack of books that I'm working through, usually multiple books at a time. I guess I'm a little ADD when it comes to reading anymore, but I also kind of like to shift back and forth to different topics, sometimes at different times of day. But yeah, I've always loved to read. I think it's such a good practice to stay in that habit. And sometimes it's good for me too, just to remember to put my phone down and to focus on something and to remember how to concentrate on reading. And the nonfiction has helped me learn a lot. I've read more biographies the last few years and just a lot of business books and all kinds of different things. So it's fun to kind of stretch myself into different genres now and then and read things that I wouldn't normally. As you've listened to this podcast, if you're new here, go back and listen to past episodes. And if you've been listening for a while, would you do me a favor and share this with someone? Because chances are we all know people who are involved with nonprofits or interested in grant writing in some capacity, working with nonprofits or both. So would you just forward this to them and let them know about it? Help me spread the word. Let's take that 6,000 and double it as quick as we can. I still am just blown away that we are to this point already. It's so exciting and so cool to see how it's all come together. And I love hearing from you guys. So send me a message. Let me know what books you love. What are you reading? And what are you working on right now? If you are thinking about grant writing, but you're just really not sure, go to teresahuff.com/quiz. I have a quick little quiz called Do You Have What It Takes to Be a Grant Writer? And see how you do. Let me know. Let me know what you think of it. Because chances are, the distance from point A to point B is a lot shorter than you think. You probably have a lot of the skills in place already that you would need. You just need a few more missing pieces. So that's where we can connect the dots and get you moving. The world needs you out there. Remember, we're here to change the world, even in those small baby steps. So take that first baby step. Go to teresahuff.com/quiz and let's get moving. If you love this show and you learned something new about being the type of grant writer the world needs so you can create a ripple in your community, please go leave me a review over on Apple Podcasts today. Thanks for listening. Now go change your world.